He says he's on the plane lots. Good afternoon and welcome to the Administrative Committee meeting for the Moscow City Council. It is Tuesday, November 13th. To my left is Ann Zabala, and to my far left is Gary Reedner representing city staff. Our first item is the approval of the Administrative Committee meeting minutes of September 24th, 2018. Did you have any?
No, they look good to me.
I thought so too. All right, sir, they are approved.
Thank you.
The second item is request name change of Eastgate Park to Triangle Park. Mr. Curtis, Dr. Curtis, hit us, please.
Good afternoon. Well, this is actually a fun one. Back in August of this year, we had 9-year-old Ginny Saunders. Her folks live near Eastgate Park, and she sent us a letter requesting that this park be renamed Triangle Park. And all you have to do is look at the shape of the park to know where that came from. This park, it's located on Park Drive and Kamiakin Street. Eastgate Park was never officially named. It just sort of assumed, and we're assuming this even, that it just assumed the name because it was in that subdivision, and it just suddenly everybody was calling it at that time either Triangle Park or Eastgate Park. And so it's been like that for years. The park was developed in 1976, and of course shaped like a triangle. Most people refer to it as Triangle Park. If you ask somebody to go to Eastgate Park, they think it's either East City Park or they have no idea where this is at or what it is, so they say, oh, Triangle Park, and then, oh yeah. So anyway, the request was logical, and so I've got a little slide presentation for you in case you don't know where it's at.
Thank you.
There's what it looks like up close, and from the air you can see the new ball field site off to the right there, and that's Mountain View Drive. So it's hidden, and the background of it, we just mentioned it a little bit. Of course, the request today is to change the name. Most everybody knows this by Triangle Park. There's no official naming of this ever that we were able to find. And in 1957, there's a plat that actually shows the park area, and then cleared out a lot of years later. In 1974 was the first we found that there was any reference to an East Gate Park. There are no council minutes that has anything to do with Eastgate Park or the naming of it back then. Here's what it looked like initially, kind of neat. And I mean, just look at the background even. I mean, yeah, the town has really changed. This is during the development of the park. Kind of neat. The park was developed in 1976. Right now it has a playground, a drinking fountain, picnic tables, benches, trash can, and a dog waste station. And it's mostly just a turf triangle with a few trees around it. Here's a more recent photo. Nice looking park.
Yeah.
The sign. And our conclusion with this was the name change request was made by Jenny Saunders. No historical evidence to warrant objection to this. Since Triangle Park is what most refer it to, it makes sense. The cost implications, other than a park sign, there would be no cost associated with this. The sign's about $2,000. That includes installation. We would put that into the 20 budget. We followed the city's park naming policy once this request came in, and then at the October 25th meeting, the Parks and Recreation Commission recommended for council approval of this. We had Jenny Saunders at that meeting, and she's a cutie. It was really fun to watch. I mean, it was really fun to watch her. That's concludes my presentation, and of course the recommendation is to authorize the change of the name of Eastgate Park to Triangle Park.
Did you get to see the Parks and Rec thing? I didn't either. I think this is an awesome idea, and I like that it was championed by a 9-year-old citizen. I think that's awesome. So, do you have any, so there's no anything, there's no minutes anywhere that said we named it, we just bought a sign?
Well, no, we bought the sign just because that's the name that it's officially been gone by. We were just never able to find anything that said why it was called that. So we just assumed that because it was an Eastgate subdivision that they just called it Eastgate Park. And
Interesting.
Which really is the way we used to name parks. East City Park was in the east part of the city.
Exactly.
Anderson Frontier Park is the Frontier Edition.
Yep.
So
Okay.
it just was
So
the
that
way it
does-
goes.
It does make some degree of sense.
yeah,
Wasn't just Eastgate, because the Westgate
it
was
was because of
taken.
where it was located.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome.
And I didn't mention, I have it in the notes here, but we had 86 responses from the public. 83 of those were in favor of the change, 2 were ambivalent, and 1 preferred a restroom instead of a park name change.
Okay, well,
Do you know how old the sign is, by chance?
No, I don't. This was done
10 years
before I got
probably.
here. That
Oh,
sign
longer
was
than
there, yeah, it's old, so it's at least 16, 17 years old.
We changed the park signs years ago. Fred Cole, Cole Sign Company.
Still does.
Went through and we have the same standard looking signs. So we did a couple of years, what we could afford at the time. So I can't say when this happened, but it's been probably that long.
It was before I got here.
Woodpeckers didn't get to it, I see.
It's one of the few, yeah.
that's good.
Too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I move that we move forward with it.
Yes, and I think we should, I don't know, I'm tempted to invite Miss Ginny Saunders to council to talk to us, but if she's been to Parks and Rec, can we put it on consent?
You can do whatever you want.
Let's do consent, please. Okay,
All right, well, thank you.
Thank
you're
you.
welcome, thank you, sir. Okay, our third item is software licensing agreement for an advanced alert distributed reporting system pilot project. Chief Fry,
Good afternoon.
good afternoon, sir.
So let me give you a little bit of a background on this.
Awesome.
As we continue to move through these trying times with violence in our schools and in our community at times, we were approached by an individual who had contacts with this Kestrel group to write up an app that would give us a little bit quicker reporting on some of these things, and we can identify certain people in our community who would be considered high fidelity observers, and those are partners, teachers and police officers and lawyers, but people that we know personally, probation officers who are out in our community that see things. And what they would do is if they saw something that was maybe highly suspicious or out of the ordinary, they could report that to us, and we could take that information and follow up with that. But also it would allow somebody, if they were in a building, they were a high fidelity observer, and something was to happen, they could hit the alert, and it would actually let us know where they're at, and they could report back and forth with us on what's going on. So this initial phase, it's a 3-phase licensing, basically. The first is where we're at now. We're just in the very infancy stages, but they really don't want to continue if it's not going to be approved for our community to use. I think they'll use it somewhere else if they don't, but we're the first in the nation for something like this. And right now it uses an Android phone where Android users would be able to send us, like I said, information on, let's say we had a school shooting and one of the high fidelity observers was in the school, they could actually pinpoint where the person is faster for us. So that's one of the key pieces to this. Only certain people within our department would be able to see that information. As far as being able to lock it down and be a portal user. So the portal, when stuff comes in, we would be able to filter that out, but it's not information that everybody would be able to have. So it's just a reporting. It's a quicker reporting, and we're trying to get this in place so that if something else was to occur in our community, we might be able to get there a little bit faster and prevent something. As you know, the Kestrel Group is, I believe, out of Texas, and they're working with us. We did a initial 4-hour get-together where they asked, they put the app that they've kind of developed up on the screen, and we actually worked through it and told them some things that we wanted to see to be different within that. So they're continuing working, but we're also at that point where there's no cost to the city for this pilot program. It's a 3-year program. And if in the end we don't think it's beneficial to us, we can also back out of that.
What happens if we don't back out of it?
Well, then I think there will be a point where we discuss what the software would cost
It would be a licensing
at that
fee.
point.
Do we
most
have an
likely.
idea of what that would be?
I don't, not at this point in time.
Okay. What's the criteria for choosing portal user? High
fidelity?
High fidelity, yes, sir.
Those will be chosen by the police department members and by the admin team of the city. And we will look at people who are already our partners. We'd like to bring the school district in, the university in, people from Gritman in, other places around that, city council members, if they meet, and there's a criteria, and there's a training they have to actually go through. So we're basically teaching people to look at what is suspicious, what's not suspicious, what's normal, different things like that.
Okay,
If I may.
please.
If you look at the agreement too, there is a criteria for becoming an observer, but they're not asking those folks to take any action other than to notify, which is one of the main things you want. You don't want people who are not trained law enforcement people to intervene in any way. It's just to be more eyes and ears for if something suspicious happens, they can report to the police, and the police can then handle it from there.
And this doesn't take the place of 911 by any means. This just gives us one more tool. And those high-fidelity observers are all volunteers. So if we ask somebody and they say, no, I don't want to be a part of that, we move on. So it's not a high-pressure deal.
And this training involves the difference between noting something that's really actually a problematic situation and profiling perchance? I mean, the difference therein?
We're not going to be profiling, and they'll teach people what to look for.
That's
And then
awesome.
part of that training also will be how the app works. And so it's not just, here's your app in your phone, go use it. They're going to walk people through all that too. So when to use the red alert, which is, I'm in a serious situation and
Right.
something's going on.
Right.
So the nice thing is it's also geo-based, so that if that person hits that, we know where they're at, which gives us a lot of intelligence that we typically wouldn't have possibly.
Do you have any questions?
I'm just thinking about it.
Now, Kestrel will be coming in to make a presentation at
Yes.
the November 19th meeting as well.
Yes.
So specific questions as to how the software works and things like that can be brought up at that time. I think the main thing that we wanted to bring before the council is if this is a way, it's a test program. So if it's a way to try and make the community safer, then it makes sense. We're very sensitive that profiling does not occur, that this is something that could be observed by anyone. So we just wanted to make sure that if something is observed, that it's reported to whoever can handle it.
I appreciate, too, a 3-year pilot where it doesn't cost us anything and everybody learns the mistakes you're going to learn, which I think that's important. I guess I'd like to put it on the agenda, but I don't know that I have a recommendation yet.
I feel the same way. I'd like more information, and I think it should go to council, but I don't.
Maybe we just need to get it out and talk about it with council before we make a recommendation for approval or not.
Okay.
I feel the same.
Okay.
And that's fair. It's, we just wanted to bring it in. It's our regular practice to bring things before committee. So we can certainly bring that up on the 19th.
And I do appreciate you bringing it to our attention before it just, surprise, there it is.
Yeah.
Nobody likes that. I do agree with you about the seriousness of keeping our community safe, however. And if this is going to be a way to do that, this should not be a problem.
Yeah.
Okay?
Perfect.
So, all right, so we'll see you on the 19th with
My only other
Castro.
comment would be that it sounds like we're doing their research and development for them to some extent, since we'd be the, pilot users. And I wonder if we decided to move forward with the contract at the end of that 3-year term or licensing, I guess that would be the terminology for it. I wonder if they'd be willing to give us some kind of discount in perpetuity, since we're not asking for anything to be, if we were to move forward as the test for it. So I don't know what that conversation would look like, but I'm curious to know.
I think that makes good sense. We can certainly bring that up with them, some sort of discounted licensure, if nothing else.
Yeah.
Prototype discount.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Perfect.
Thank you, sir. Okay, that is the end of our regular agenda. There is a report on the Coulters Creek Sidewalk Cafe pilot project results. Ms. Hopkins. I know, that was quite a title, wasn't it? Coulters Creek
you're
Sidewalk
good.
Cafe pilot project.
I can't see.
Nice PowerPoint.
Yeah, my boss made me do that. So, just to give a little bit of history, last April, Coulters Creek applied for a sidewalk cafe license for their tasting room on Main Street. And because they'd be serving alcohol in that cafe area, it would require a non-permanent barrier. They were wanting it to be aesthetically pleasing, where the pedestrians could see through the tasting room window with no impediments. That was really important to them. But because they do have to have a barrier, I think they thought, oh, no, nobody will be able to see through. The other issue is the sidewalk slants towards the street, and so it was kind of a little bit of a challenging area, and you can't really tell that the sidewalk slants towards the street, but it does, and that's the before. So staff needs to work within the Moscow laws and not inhibit the public right-of-way, but we also need to make sure the cafe areas are safe, yet still be accommodating to make the downtown a beautiful place to come visit. So staff worked with the contractor to get an idea, use their idea to work within the regulations, and the end result was a decking material that was not anchored to the concrete, because it has to be a non-permanent, and that can still be removed. Let's see, because it was a unique design, and the council members would be engaged by the public and/or local businesses also wanting to try something different, we brought it to you, to the admin committee in late April as a pilot project. City council approved it in May, and we issued it on June 6th. And so since it was technically a pilot project, we thought we'd just bring it back and just show you what it looked like. I have checked in with Shelley, and there has been no complaints about it from businesses or citizens. They've heard a lot of really good things. People quite enjoyed it. And I re-listened to the committee meeting, and somebody mentioned about snow removal, if that would be an issue. And I talked to Shelley today, and she said they were going to leave the decking out and just shove the snow off of it and off the sidewalks too. So if for some reason that becomes an issue, we can always talk to them about pulling it up, because it is in 3 sections and can be removed.
If I may. You recall that encroachments into the public right-of-way, we do have sidewalk permits, sidewalk cafe permits, and we require that those are not permanent. They can't be affixed to the public right-of-way. So there was a business that we had sunk some anchors into the concrete. That issue's been dealt with. When this proposal came up, and that was in our mind when this proposal came up, that it needs to be aesthetically pleasing to the business, but it can't be anchored in the public right-of-way. Public right-of-way, unless the council issues a specific encroachment permit, which I don't believe they got in this case. It is a sidewalk cafe. So if it needs to be removed, Public Works or whoever needs to have it removed, public entity, would request them to remove it, and they would have to remove it for the public good. So it's not semi-permanent, it's just a solid structure that can be removed.
I think it is kind of seems to be a good solution to what the parameters that we laid down. And I will admit that I've had a glass of wine or two on the removable structure that's shown in the picture, and it is a very nice chance to really sit in the community, in the downtown vibe. So I think it's a really good solution. What happens from here? That's just a report to?
Yep.
Okay.
I think we will just continue as Sidewalk Cafe applications come in and see what they want to do and try and work within the laws and the business community and find something that works for both.
Are they allowed to keep this then? So at the end of the pilot project, it just becomes
Last year it was mentioned that we would recheck at the end of the year. They expire December 31st every year.
Okay,
So,
okay.
Yeah, really, unless this committee has an issue with it, since it has been working, the intent is to allow it, take it up on a case-by-case basis if somebody else wants something similar, and if there needs to be further consideration, then we'll bring it back to you.
My only concerns would have been like maybe during homecoming or something like that, with the amount of people that will get on the sidewalks. But I didn't see or hear anything. So I think it probably was something some little kid was swinging on during the event, and life is good, so. Okay. Nicely done. Thank you for the report. We are officially adjourned. Okay.